more and more subtle, harder and harder to see. So form, it's relatively straightforward. Feelings, a little bit harder. But still obvious enough. I mean, you know feelings. It's just that you may not be watching it correctly. Okay. The next one, mindfulness of mind, citta. This one, a little trickier. So let's just look at objectively. I mean, just read what the Buddha said first. Understands properly mind with craving as mind with craving. He understands properly a mind free from craving as a mind free from craving. Understands properly mind with aversion as mind with aversion, and understands properly mind free from aversion as mind free from aversion. And you go on, okay? You see, delusion, collected, scattered, expanded, surpassable, unsurpassable, concentrated, unconcentrated, freed, not freed. Essentially, in this practice, using your mind as the object, you are not to look at thoughts. This is not thoughts. This is being aware of a state of awareness. When you are aware of the mind, at the point when you're aware of the mind, look into the mind, what do you see? If at that point your mind is caught up with craving, know that there is craving. And know how a mind that is caught up with craving looks like, feels like. That is why the word here, understands properly. When you have an angry mind, when you're angry, anger in the mind is therefore having at that point aversion. You have to then look at aversion and understand how aversion feels, looks like. The mind that has aversion, what does it look like? How does it feel? Know how it looks like that, why it looks like that. You need to know the features of a mind that has craving, the features of a mind that has aversion, not the object of aversion. Meaning to say, I'm angry with her because you don't want to go into the debates. You only want to look at the energy of aversion, the sensation of craving. That's all you want. Delusion, actually the word is moha, and it's been translated as delusion. Moha is a difficult word to explain because I really can't think of an English word a singular English word to replace it. I can give you an analogy, and hopefully that from the analogy it gives you an idea what moha is. And I always use this analogy because somehow Singaporeans, China also, we tend to have these instincts, this kind of very cute instincts. You know, when we are younger, right? When we were all younger, our parents used to tell us, study hard, work hard, study, and then you will have a good career, yeah? Our parents used to say things like that. Huh? I'm sure some of us do remember, and I'm sure the mothers also remember. And we don't really know why. We don't really understand why studying hard will enable us to have a better career. We don't understand that logic, not tight. Then many years later, when we go out to society to work, we begin to appreciate that philosophy, that view. We begin to understand that actually it's true. If I had studied harder, maybe I'll have a better career or a better job, I may have better options, etc., etc. You begin to understand the rationale. Okay, moha was when you were younger, you don't understand this kind of logic, this kind of wisdom, mundane wisdom. We don't see it, we don't understand it. But when you're older, and you go back to society, you work, you begin to understand the value of education, the value of being educated. So when you're much older, the moha, the ignorance with regards to the connection between education and a successful career, that understanding that you have when you're older and you lack when you're younger, the difference is moha. You understand that? So Buddha kept telling us, you have to do this, you have to do that, you need to develop this, you have to practice that way, you need to see Nibbana. But we have no idea what he's saying. So we have moha. We don't understand why. We understand the logic of Dhamma. We know we love Dhamma, we love Buddha, we know that, we're very happy with that, but we don't necessarily know what's the rationale. Why must it be practiced like that? Why cannot be like that? Why cannot be scenic route? Why must it be the tough restraint all the way? And so on and so forth. So the more you begin to understand Dhamma, the more wisdom that grows in you with regards to Dhamma, the more that moha lens fades away. It will start to fade away. So the more Dhamma you understand, the less moha is left there. It is because of this moha that we continue to tempt karma, that we continue to do the wrong things, that we continue not to restrain ourselves. It's because of moha. If we have full wisdom and full knowledge, we won't be fools. Okay? So this particular one, when your mind starts to develop wisdom, in other words, when you begin to understand and grow with the Dhamma, you begin to understand the Dhamma, moha starts to fade, and you know. And you know. A mind that comes together, you recognize it. Can you see how subtle now it's become? It gets more and more subtle. You see, craving, anger, delusions or ignorance, being foolish, all these you can recognize. They're a bit more gross. But now you're seeing a mind that is quiet, a mind that is not scattered, a mind that is composed, in other words. The mind that is expanded. These are all meditation. It's not meditation, it's just a normal mind. In your normal day, when you're restless, your mind is scattered. When you are happy and you're delighting, the mind is together, it's there. When you are giving, the mind expands. When you are petty, the mind contracts. When you sit in meditation, the mind quiets down and is focused. These are all minds, the different state of mind that you must learn to recognize. There may be more. In fact, there are more. And you start to recognize the different state. When you are aware, that's all, aware of the mind, straight away you must be able to recognize the state the mind is in. That's it. And once you recognize the state that it's in, you need to recognize the features of that state. Properly understanding. And when your mind is free, recognize it as freed. When the mind is burdened, know it as burden. Okay? Much harder. You see, earlier on, I can sense the general, I know this, I know that, yeah, I can do this, I can do that. Come to this point, then there's silence really. It's beginning to get a sense of, Okay, trying to understand, I'm trying to understand. But you understand, roughly, for some of you. Okay? The last one, mindfulness of Dhamma. It's still the mind. But this time around, in looking at the mind, you are beginning to identify the features that correlate with the Dhamma.
It's about understanding mentioned in the chitta part. It's about the
Yes, but it's not just the chitta, it's everything. It's all the other parts. It's about the form, it's about the feelings, it's about your mind. But in looking at these objects, there's now one more element to look at. It's a correlation with Dhamma. So for instance, your feelings that come and disappear. You, on the one hand, you notice there is no attachment. On the other, you also see that it is impermanent. You see what I'm saying? That's Dhamma. And then you may see that all these experiences, they come and they go, driven by conditions. There is an arising of attachment because there was a contact between your sense organ and an object, an external object. Because of that contact, there is a rising of attachment. You begin to become very aware. 5 aggregates, becoming very aware of feeling, thought construction, perception, form, consciousness, ear consciousness, eye consciousness, nose consciousness, not nose, smell consciousness, taste consciousness, and so on and so forth. Sense sphere, the same thing, all your organs. Factors of enlightenment. When it gets to a very high level of mindfulness, you see, they always start with the easy. Every step, every meditation method, it always starts with the easier one, and it gets progressively harder. So it starts off with aggregates, sense bases. These are experiences. You hear sound. Know when there is contact and hearing and sound. You hear it, you see it, you taste it, you smell it, etc. Know when there is the contact and observe the mind relating to the contact. But it goes on to 7 factors of enlightenment. Literally, as you become very aware of mindfulness, you are aware of how the mind, in the state of mindfulness, starts to examine things with a Dhamma lens. When your mind is very mindful and in correct mindfulness, it will start to examine the world, internal world, and its relation to the external world through a Dhamma lens. I will explain this much later. Okay, this is actually part 2 of the talk. But I'm showing you how it gets very complex. And it's like when it starts to examine through a Dhamma lens, there will be this energy surge. You're very inspired. The joy arises. The mind calms down. It gets very focused, it very concentrated, it gets detached, and it can really see, it can really understand Dhamma. Okay? All these Dhamma concepts become very evident when your mindfulness, when the mind becomes very clear, very sharp, very focused, very objective. It starts to register details in a very detached way. That's when it will begin to see the world internal and its relations to the world external through a Dhamma lens. This is a very important point. For those of you who have been practicing meditation and all, if you find that, yes, I'm very mindful and yes, I'm very concentrated, but I don't find myself necessarily being very mindful of Dhamma in daily life, then there's one big chunk that's missing. There's a big chunk of the experience, the Dhamma experience that's missing. It's not only in meditation. Whatever that you do in meditation has to be carried into daily life, daily activities. Okay? Now, Sati as a tool is also used to guard oneself against caving in to negative instincts. You see, our mind, so the two things that you're trying to do, you're developing a certain state of mindfulness that is able to see Dhamma. And I've explained to you how that's supposed to be developed. At the same time, in daily life, you need to be able to be clear enough, sharp enough for the mind to guard against constantly caving into negative instincts. Okay? So here Buddha has said how to practice. There are 4 occasions when mindfulness should be practiced. What for? Abandon bodily misconduct, develop bodily good conduct, abandon verbal misconduct, develop verbal good conduct, abandon mental misconduct, develop mental good conduct, abandon wrong view, develop right view. Do not be heedless in this. What is wrong view? What is right view? There's only one. 4 Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path. You will say, so easy, meh? Yes. Because it is not the instinct of men. It is not in our instinct to constantly be mindful of the 4 Noble Truths. You see, in our daily lives, if you think about it, right, something unpleasant happens, we just react very instinctively. Yeah? Someone cut a queue, we get annoyed. Someone says something nasty, we feel it, we get annoyed. If we are more mindful, if we are very mindful, and we are also mindful of not just Dhamma but also Kamma, then we are less likely to react. We will hold back a little. And if we totally believe in, as I said, Dhamma and Kamma, and especially this one, then not only do we restrain, we also develop ourselves to a point where it doesn't really affect anymore. You start off learning to restrain. As you progress, it should not be holding back. It should be not quite a factor. If you still have to keep holding back, it actually means you haven't really progressed. From the point when you start off. Okay, better than if you don't hold back. Huh? But if you hold back, you have progressed from a point when you never held back. But then after many moons of practice, you're still trying to hold back. It means you actually haven't really progressed. Because at some point, it's not about holding back. It's about it won't affect you so much. It shouldn't affect you so much. So less and less things should be affecting you. Mindfulness is to help the practitioner throughout the practice. From the part when he started off, when he had to act with restraint, to the point when he is now aware his mind has grown so much. Restraint is irrelevant because he doesn't even arise. The thing doesn't even bother him. You say it's not possible? You ask yourself, when you were much younger, there was a time when there were things that you really enjoyed, that you really loved, right? And today, do you still love the same things? Hello?
Barbie doll.
You loved Barbie doll when you were younger. Seriously? I'm glad you outgrew it. But the thing is that you know, there was a time when you were attached to some things, and today you're not attached to the same things. What changed? Something changed. Something, you outgrew it. So one day you will also outgrow the bad habits that you still have. And if you think that they're bad habits that are obstacles to the practice and you really want to get rid of them, one day you outgrow them also, if you are sincere about it. And mindfulness is the way to help you do it. Because mindfulness enables you, if you recall what I said earlier on about what the Buddha listed as the 5 steps, at some point you are so aware of your mind, you can see craving. And you learn to let go of craving. That counts as one level of development. Okay? One bent on his own welfare should practice heedfulness, basically Sati, guarding of mind in 4 instances. May my mind not become excited by things that provoke lust. May my mind not be full of hate towards things that provoke hatred. May my mind not be deluded by things that cause delusion. May my mind not be intoxicated by things that intoxicate. You see, exact words. Lust excites. Hatred provoke. Well, delusions cause delusion. They want a bit less obvious. Why do I say this? This is interesting. If you look at your own mind, right, craving. You watch a mind in craving. Start to watch a mind in craving. You will notice that the craving energy shakes. The mind coming into contact with something it likes shakes. Okay? It gets excited. And it really gets excited. The mind will just shake a lot. Anger is not shake this way. Anger is heavy. Heavy energy. Very heavy, very lumpy. That's why it sits like a stone in your heart when you get upset. You know, people get heart attack. It sits like a stone in the heart. You just watch it. Whereas lust doesn't sit like a stone in the heart. It's just shaking all over the place. Okay? And I said, and the word provoke is quite interesting because, you know, most time when we get angry, it's never our fault. Someone triggered it. Someone's fault. Someone triggered it. So provoke. But the reality is, of course it's our fault. We allow ourselves to be triggered, to be provoked. Okay? Now, as a mental state, mindfulness as a mental state. First and foremost, mindfulness develops. It's a mental state, it can grow. Think of it like a skill. Yeah? Your exercise, you go to the gym. So when you start off trying to do certain chin up, very tough, very tough. But the more you do it, the better you are. The faster you go, the longer you can go at it. Yes? It's an exercise. It builds up certain, when you do it often enough, you build up certain muscles, something's happened. Same. Mindfulness practice is an exercise. As you work at it, it gets better and better. It lasts for longer, you see more. You see more things, you see at more levels. Longer, deeper, okay? Sharper. So, here I have described 4 stages of mental development of sort. For anyone who's starting new, when you're doing this for the first time, some of you can chip in and tell me that there are more levels. That's fine. But broadly, there's these 4 levels. When you first try to do Sati, when you first try to do mindfulness practice, it's very difficult. Difficulty in trying to lock your attention to a point and follow. You struggle to lock, you struggle to observe, you hardly ask you to offer some adjective about what you're observing, you offer very little. So you start with just short breath, long breath, deep breath. It's very thin. No details. No. You can't see many features. Okay. For example, for those of you who have done meditation, and you look at your mind, I am asking you a question. When you do your meditation and you look at your mind, right? What do you see? If you're asked to observe your mind, what can you see? No mind. Not there. Blank mind. At least she offers a view. What do you see? Seriously. When you first set out to look at your mind, right? I mean, when you start to do your mindfulness practice, right? Have you ever done it before?
Very busy.
Exactly. So you see a whole state of busyness, right? Okay, what else? Pulsation. That's already very chim. Pulsation is already more chim. Anybody else pulsating? Chances are it's busyness, blank. Chances, because you're new to it, right? Then you see, huh?
A lot of thoughts.
Busy, yeah. What else? Scattered, yes. So a mind of this nature, when you first set out, it's just patches all over the place. Then you try to focus on the breath, still patches all over the place. The breath is there, not there, half there, not there, all over the, right? Huh? Very, very difficult to latch it to a breath. What else?
A lot of planning sometimes.
A lot of construction. Okay, now, as you start to watch more, as you start to observe your mind better, can you see that the mind then eventually start to settle and be able to rest on an object? So you are no longer seeing a whole mess of things, but you're beginning to follow one by one. Okay? As the mind starts to settle, you begin to be able to see one by one. And as you become more aware of these one by one, you should be, over time, start to be able to observe that in this singular sensation, there are little interesting features about the singular sensation. Yes? So you set off, it's a blank canvas of mess. And when your mind starts to settle, you begin to be able to spot object. You start to be able to pick up the little brush strokes. You're beginning to see features, okay? And you are able to focus on one feature at a time. And as you begin to focus on one feature at a time, as your mindfulness increases, each object, each feature will start to have more resolution, more pixels. Each object begin to, for you, start to have pixels. And then that is when you realize, the point when you start to see pixels is when you have to stop going too deep already. It's time to pull back so that you can see the picture. You now must see the canvas, the picture. You become aware of awareness. And in aware of awareness, this landscape picture is now a painting, and you must watch that painting of your mind, but with order and not a whole chaotic mess. You see the thing, and you now know that I am aware of awareness. And if you want to, you can focus, you can drill in to look at the house, the mountain, the trees, and you can spot the trees and see a bit of details. You want to look at details? Can. You want to pull back? and see the canvas? You can. But you must know when the mind is doing what. That is the clarity you want. And you must constantly tell yourself, I'm not attached to this canvas. This canvas is not I. The canvas is just a landscape taking place, going on their busy life by themselves, but I must be able to see it as it is, pull back and see the different parts, zoom in to look clearly at each part. Can do both. Must be able to do both. And in all this looking at the parts, keep telling yourself, impermanence. They keep changing. All the parts keep moving. Not I. I don't control anything. It takes place on its own. And if you start to get attached to any of them, you will experience dukkha. Mindfulness. This is your mind. The canvas is your mind. So you set off, not even sure, don't even know that it's a canvas. You're one of the players inside that canvas when you first start out. When you're trying to do your mindfulness for the first time, you're caught up in all the activities in there. As you begin to pull back, the next level is when you begin to realize that, heck, you can actually pull back and not participate in all these activities. You can see all these little things. You have no idea what they are, but you get to follow all these little things. And then you start to be able to realize that, hey, actually, all these little things are objects. A breath has more features. A state of mind has features. Houses, if you like, state of mind, their features, feelings, mountains, and so on. And you can pull all the way back and see it. Or you can zoom in and actually look at details. But you must always be able to pull back. Why must you pull back? Because you need to maintain a certain distance so that you don't get attached to it. That's one. You have to be able to maintain a distance and not get too attached to it. And number two, realization is not about seeing the little dots. Realization is not seeing the little dots. But if you don't see the little dots, you can't realize. Okay? Realization is, after you've seen all the little dots, do you know how to let go of the little dots? Okay? And that's chapter 3. That's the third segment of the talk. Today, the whole purpose is to help explain how that it is important to know how to watch the mind and know what to look out for, the four sets of objects, and then know that you need to be able to pull back. A lesson can't teach mindfulness meditation completely. One lesson not possible, but can give you like a preliminary reading. Okay. Finally, one last segment. Oh, incidentally, when you have built the skill of mindfulness practice until it's very, when you have developed the skill until you're really good at it, it becomes what it's called here, skill, indriya, or a force, a bala. Basically, it becomes something that enables you to realize nibbana. Mindfulness is what it takes to take you very close to a point where you can see the Dhamma. Without mindfulness, you can't see, for sure. But your mindfulness built into a skill, you're very good at it, very, very skillful. You know what to look out for. You know how to look out for them. You know what to let go, how to let go. The mind will know what to do next. Okay, the mindfulness has to be to that level of instinctively knowing what to do in your meditation, as well as in normal life. It basically works to a point where it becomes instinct. So mindfulness is not, it's like you are training to do marathon, right? Initially, you have to train. Then at a certain point, second nature already. You run and cruise, literally cruise. So same thing. Mindfulness, when you set off, it is a skill that you have to keep practicing and practicing and practicing and practicing. But over time, when you're really good at it, together with wisdom, you know what to do. It becomes a very instinctive part of the mind. It becomes an instinctive part of the mind. And then in your meditation, it has to be the compass. Not a compass. Is that compass? No. The panya is the compass. Together, mindfulness and panya together work as a very powerful compass to kind of navigate you through. Okay? I will read you this
This is not a stable state.
mindfulness can be a stable state.
It comes and it goes and it comes back and it goes.
When you are practicing, it is like that. But you push it to a level of habit, it can be very stable. The Buddha said that if you can sustain it uninterrupted for 7 days, you enter the stream.
Sustain.
Sustain meaning not caught up. So you are very detached. Not caught up. So this is the kind of sustain.
Sustain is it's most time we are very distracted, and if you were to put your entire mindfulness moment in the day and put it all together, right, probably wouldn't be able to call 1 hour. It's like all the mindful moments of the day, you put it together into one collectively, right? Would you say an hour? Now, if you are talking about this kind of practice, it has to be way longer than 20 minutes lah. Probably uninterrupted. What Buddha says is 7 days. Okay, 7 days. I would suspect, it's only a suspicion, I would suspect that every hour there will be at least a third to one half easily. Every hour, 1/3 to a half, your mind is drifting towards mindfulness. Every hour, whole day, the mind will just drift towards mindfulness. And it's not collective, it's probably, you keep drifting back to mindfulness, you keep drifting back. You don't have, and when you're practicing, it's very forceful, you try. When it becomes a habit, you don't have to try very hard. It drifts back. It becomes an instinct. It starts to drift in that general direction. When you sit down and got nothing to do, your mind just drifts back to mindfulness. If you have something to do, you're caught up in work. That's what Yan Yan always say. When you're caught up in work, the mind drifts to work. But the moment work finishes, it drifts back to mindfulness. That's how it is. So if you find your mind starts to do something like that, you know that your mindfulness has become quite good. That it's now fighting with your restless mind for airtime, you see. You're typically, for most people, right, restlessness, distraction is the big protagonist. But if your mindfulness is sharp enough, then it drifts back to that. But you must remember, this is not forced mindfulness. It is habitual mindfulness. What's the difference? Forced mindfulness, you actually got to watch the breath, watch the mind, watch the feelings, watch the body, etc. This is forced mindfulness. Natural mindfulness, watch the moment, aware, that's it. And then straight away it will go into in this awareness, what is it seeing? What is it aware of? Letting go. The awareness is awareness of Dhamma, of letting go. Of this chap, very instinctive. Don't hold on to anything. A bhikkhu has mindfulness well established. Internally. Well established internally. For gaining the wisdom that discerns the arising and passing away of phenomena. He dwells contemplating the unattractiveness of the body, perceiving the repulsiveness of food, perceiving non-delight in the entire world, contemplating impermanence in all conditioned phenomena. If develops and cultivates these 5 things, one of 2 fruits is to be expected. Either final knowledge in this very life, or if there's a residue remaining, the state of non-returning. You know what I said earlier, right? That what are you mindful of? You're mindful of letting go. Mindful of clinging and letting go. This is the mindfulness of an anagami and an arahant. So when they are mindful of letting go in a very big way. No clinging to anything sensual. That is why unattractiveness of the form, the food, they are not holding on to anything associated with the sensual delighted world. Okay? How do you recognize it? How do you recognize the correct mindfulness? It's my small attempt. This is my small attempt at trying to explain what it should feel like. Correct mindfulness has to be effortless. Meaning what I said earlier on, that when you are not distracted by some object, the mind goes into a natural state of awareness. And when it looks at itself, there is a sense of peace and a sense of letting go. Not holding on to something. Letting go is a state of mind. Letting go is not an effort. Letting go is a state of mind. Understand the difference. As an effort, something happens and you try to let it go, let it go, let it go, let it go.
A lot of wanting.
Exactly. A lot of wanting. It's a state of mind, right? It's a mind that doesn't chase after something. Then when the mind wants to chase, you can also see that the mind wants to go and chase. Then you have to watch the mind wanting to chase. And if you're watching it sharp enough, the chasing will stop and the mind will just come back, be still for a while, get quiet. So the letting go is just a state of not chasing, not wanting, very instinctive, but very difficult. You have to constantly reflect and practice and observe. So the mindfulness, subsequently I will, in the second part of the talk, all this is still the first part. The second part of the talk, I will explain what is the mind supposed to look out for. What are the features that the mind is supposed to look out for? And then because it starts to see these features, now do you have the wisdom to let go? Right now, when I say the word let go, half of you will go, are you very chump? The other half will go, I tried, but it doesn't work. Of course it doesn't work because we are not doing it correctly. Later on, when we are doing it correctly, it'll be easier. Okay?